morning, South County Secondary School. This is American Drug News. I'm here with my co-host, Jeremiah.
Yes, good morning, South County. What do we have to report on today, young?
Well, today we're going to be talking about dope, grass, bud, reefer, weed, hash, or most commonly known as marijuana.
Oh, yes, marijuana. I'd have to say my favorite's probably Mary Jane. Well, what exactly is marijuana?
Well, Jeremiah, let me tell you. It's a green and brown mix of dry flowers, stems, seeds, and leaves from the hemp plant Cannabis sativa. Do you know what the main active chemical in marijuana is?
Why, yes, I do. The active ingredient in marijuana is THC, which is in the cannabinoid drug family.
That you are correct, Jeremiah.
Well, Yama, what parts of the nervous system does the marijuana affect?
Marijuana acts on the central nervous system by attaching to the brain's cannabinoid receptors and that bind to them. Certain parts of the brain have high concentration of cannabinoid receptors, those being the hippocampus, the cerebellum, the basal ganglia, the cerebral cortex, and the cerebral cortex. It affects memory, judgment, and perception.
Wow, plant does all of that. Does it affect anything else?
It does have some other kind of physical effects, Jeremiah. Marijuana also affects the autonomic nervous system by increasing one's heart rate to 20 to 50 beats per minute, sometimes even doubling one's heartbeat. It also affects the respiratory system by relaxing the bronchial passages and enlarging them.
Well, I certainly didn't know all of that. Do you think I should explain to our viewers how marijuana works on our brain?
That sounds like a good idea to me after the break. And we're back. Here are your anchors Jeremiah and I, Yama, laying out the facts on marijuana. So, Jeremiah, how does marijuana work exactly?
Well, where to begin? Once it's in your bloodstream, THC typically reaches the brain within seconds and after it's inhaled and begins to go to work. Cannabinoid receptors in the cerebellum, basal ganglia, the hippocampus, and the cerebral cortex are activated by a neurotransmitter called anandamide. Anandamide belongs to a group of chemicals called cannabinoids, as well as THC. So THC mimics the actions of anandamide, meaning that the THC is able to bind to the cannabinoid receptors and activate the neurons, which causes adverse effects on the mind and body.
Well, that doesn't sound like a complicated process, considering all of this takes place within a matter of seconds.
It's actually pretty intriguing, but some excess repetition of the process can cause addiction. Care to fill us in on the addiction affiliated with marijuana?
Sure thing, Jeremiah. What occurs when an addict inhales marijuana is that they are placed in a euphoric state and that they are happy because of the marijuana. What this begins is a cycle of getting high to become happy. They will continue this cycle until their emotions are completely ruled by marijuana. This is emotional marijuana addiction. What happens is a logical process that marijuana enhances their life. It is a lie that they tell themselves. This lie becomes stronger and more until one uses it until they can no longer tell reality from their own perception. This is mental marijuana addiction.
So to make things clear, there are two types of marijuana addictions, mental and emotional.
That is correct, Jeremiah.
Well, who would have known?
Precisely, Jeremiah. Can you give us a lowdown on medical marijuana?
Of course, Yama. Medical marijuana can be used for the treatment of nausea in cancer patients undergoing chemotherapy, to stimulate hunger patients and wasting syndrome, relieving pain, treating depression, and decreasing ocular pressure.
Wow, and to believe some people are totally against it?
Well, there are some short and long-term effects that support people's oppositions, which we will cover after this short break. Hello, everyone. Yama and I are back with our report on marijuana.
Jeremiah, weren't you just about to discuss the short and long-term effects of marijuana?
Well, yes, I was, Yama. Short-term effects include memory, judgment, and perception, and marijuana can also cause people to forget things that they've just learned. Long-term effects can include possible hazardous development to one's lungs and brains, increased rates of anxiety, depression, and schizophrenia.
None of those sound pleasant at all.
That they do not. Well, here's a former user, Allie, with some interesting facts.
Thanks for having me on the show.
No problem, Ellie. So tell us some interesting things about our drug.
Well, 14.6 million Americans smoke marijuana on a regular basis. Second, marijuana contains 400 chemical compounds. Third, marijuana can stay in the body for weeks after use. Fourth, and my favorite, the Declaration of Independence was written on hemp paper. And lastly, there are three main types of marijuana: cannabis sativa, cannabis indica, and cannabis ruderalis.
Well, thanks, Allie, for those facts, and thank you for coming on our show.
No, thank you.
Well, folks, that's our news report on marijuana.
We're your hosts, Jeremiah,
And Yama.
and remember, America, stay drug-free.